Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the Bill of Rights, which is just the first 10 amendments. We're going to break down the amendments into 2 lessons. So we're going to do the first 10, the Bill of Rights, and then we'll do 11 through 27 tomorrow. Okay, we're going to watch a couple videos, we're going to do some notes, and then I have a little activity you're going to do. Okay, so let's try and crank through notes before lunch, then after lunch you can work on the activity. Okay, I don't know if we'll get that far. Alright, first video I'm going to show you. Just to warm up your brains, get you ready.
You're done? Well, let's hear it. What? You can't say that at my birthday party. Well, yeah, sure, I know all about freedom of speech, but you can't say that. Dear Tim and Moby, what is the Bill of Rights? From Nadi. When the U.S. Constitution was written, it was missing a few things. Well, that's the great thing about the Constitution. It's amendable or changeable. We've added to it over time. The first editions came shortly after the Constitution was drafted. The Constitution couldn't take effect until it was ratified or approved by individual states. Problem was, certain states didn't want to ratify the Constitution because they didn't think it protected the rights of every citizen. So, the framers of the Constitution promised that a section would be attached to the final version, ensuring citizen protections. 12 amendments to the Constitution, written by James Madison, were presented to the states for final approval. 10 of the 12 were approved. We call these first 10 amendments to the Constitution the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment is a really major one. It says that Congress can't make any laws that mess with freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, or freedom to petition the government. These freedoms are really important to all Americans. They're what allow us to speak our minds and act in ways that make sense for us. The Second Amendment says that Americans have the right to bear arms. Yeah, it sounds a little scary, but the idea is that the citizens should have the right to protect themselves and their country. You can learn a little more about it in our Guns movie. The Third Amendment has to do with quartering soldiers. It says that people don't have to allow soldiers to stay in their homes during times of peace. It may seem a little random now, but it was important at the time it was written, because that was a real issue for people. I mean, imagine if you had strangers coming and staying in your house any old night. The Fourth Amendment is about search and seizure. It says that no one can come into your home and look around or take stuff from you without a warrant and a very good reason. Yeah, you can't go snooping around in my room without my permission. And when it comes to the law, police can't enter a suspect's house without permission or a warrant. The Fifth Amendment deals with the rights of the accused. If a person is accused of a crime, they have the right to due process. They're innocent until proven guilty, and they don't have to answer any questions that might incriminate them or act as a witness in their own trial. The Sixth Amendment says that people have the right to a speedy public trial. An accused person has the right to have a lawyer, to understand the charges being brought against him or her, and to be tried in public by a jury of their peers. The Seventh Amendment describes people's right to a trial by jury in civil cases. No, see, Amendment 6 was talking about criminal cases. This is for a civil case, like a dispute in business or a noise complaint. The Eighth Amendment describes limits on fines and punishments. The government can't fine someone an amount that's unreasonable or punish him or her excessively. No, I actually think you deserve detention for the spitball incident. The Ninth Amendment is about the rights of the people. It says that even if a particular right is not specifically mentioned in the Constitution, that doesn't mean you don't still have it. Yeah, that way every single thing doesn't have to be spelled out. If one of your natural rights was never mentioned in either the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, it doesn't mean it can be taken away or watered down. You can still have that right. Finally, the 10th Amendment lays out the powers of the states and the people. It just says that any powers not specifically given to the states by the Constitution or prohibited by the Constitution are reserved for the states. So the Constitution gives certain powers to the United States as a country and prohibits the individual states from having certain powers. The powers that are left over go to the individual states. Many major Supreme Court cases deal with issues presented in the Bill of Rights and how they are interpreted. Sometimes there are some gray areas, room for interpretation, and that's the job of the judicial branch. Other amendments beyond the original 10 have been passed, outlawing slavery, not restricting the right to vote based on color or gender, limiting the number of terms a president can serve, banning alcohol, and then unbanning it. The Bill of Rights, along with the Constitution, helps not only define our laws, but also who we are as a people. Hey, what you got there? You're asking the Supreme Court about your right to say whatever you want in my birthday speech?
Alrighty, so that was the little preview as to what the Bill of Rights are. So, go ahead and get out those notes that I just handed you. Where's my... Okay, so the 27 amendment notes. This is what they look like. Okay, there should be 2 pages. We're just going to do the first 10 today, just the Bill of Rights part. All right.
Why did it so
Wet?
Yeah.
It's because it's really humid in my room today. I put an email into the maintenance people to come and work on my air conditioner, so hopefully it'll be all right. All right, so the Bill of Rights song. I got one more little song. Make sure you're awake. Oh Lord, Mr. Betts. He's fun.
It's a perfectly good plan. Why would your anti-federalists just ratify this Constitution? Well, if I sign this, well, I know you're gonna be the one telling me how to breathe. And if I sign this, well, I know you'll take the right of free speech and press and petition away. And if I sign this, well, I know that you will not be able to leave my cause alone. And if I sign this, I know trust you I just cannot trust you won't quarter in my home. 'Cause I don't trust your Constitution, and I think it needs something more. Like a Bill of Rights to stop the government from trying to take more. If I sign this, yes, I know you're gonna search, you're gonna seize me up without probable cause. And if I sign this, you'll make me self-incriminate or be deprived without the due process of laws. When I sign this, well, I know that any trial I'm in will carry on for years. And if I sign, well, I know to say goodbye to any jury of my peers. 'Cause I don't trust your Constitution, and I think it needs something more. Like a Bill of Rights to stop the government from trying to take more. Just sign it, won't sign it, just sign it, won't sign it till a Bill of Rights is added to the plan. Just sign it, won't sign it, won't sign it, only then I'll approve the Constitution. Well, if I sign this, well, I know that you'll be cruel and unusual if you have to punish me. And if I sign this, well, I know you're gonna say you've listed all my liberties. And when I sign this, well, I know you're gonna think that those same rights belong to you. So I won't sign this, and you better go create something that protects us from you. So create something that protects us from you. 'Cause I don't trust your Constitution, and I think it needs something more. Like a Bill of Rights that stops the government from trying to take more. Just sign it, just sign it till a Bill of Rights is added to the plan. Just sign it, only then I'll approve the Constitution.
All right, thanks, Mr.
Welcome
Betts.
back, class. There you go.
Isn't he fun? All right, 27 amendments. What are they? There's nothing you have to write down just yet. Okay. Amendment is a fancy way of saying change. So they made changes to the original document, which was the Constitution, And the way they call that is just an amendment. Okay. The first 10 amendments are known as your Bill of Rights. So, they're the basic rights granted to every American. The First Amendment. This protects the freedom of religion, speech, and press. If it's underlined, you need to write it down. Okay, I'll tell you if it's something else you need to write down. But always know if it's underlined, write it down. It's probably a fill in the blank on your notes. Now, just because you have the freedom of religion, speech, and press, that does not mean that you can just say whatever you want that could harm someone or cause a riot. Like, for example, you cannot go to an airport and scream, "I have a bomb," because people are going to go crazy. Or you can't go into a crowded room and say, "Fire!" Okay? That does not protect you. But what you can do is if Taylor and I were having a conversation, she could say, "I don't agree with President Trump on his stance on whatever." Okay? That's her right as a freedom of speech. Okay? Freedom of press. The Herald and Review, the newspaper, can publish a story even if it speaks out against something that our government is doing. Okay? And then the freedom of religion. There's no national religion. You are not forced to practice any one religion. You're allowed to practice any faith that you want or practice none at all. That's your freedom of religion. Another thing that is not on here but I want you to add is your freedom to assemble. This means right now the protests are going on in St. Louis. Okay? The people have a right to assemble and meet and discuss things, but they have to do so peacefully. Peacefully is going to be like the key to it. Now, the people who are meeting and protesting during the day that are just walking arm in arm quietly, they're protesting peacefully. That is a right protected by the First Amendment. The people that come at night and they're looting stores, breaking windows, trying to hurt people, that is not protected by the First Amendment. It's not peaceful. Okay? So, freedom of religion, speech, press, and assembly, if it's done so peacefully. I don't know why I have a giant glare on my screen, so my people who are watching later have a giant glare right in the middle. People who are watching later, I'll send the PowerPoint to you so you can see all this as well. All right, Amendment 2. The right to bear arms. Get the picture. Bear arms. Okay. Bear arms has nothing to do with literally bear arms. What does it have something to do with? Guns. Okay, so you have the right to own a weapon legally. So you have to take the legal measures to do so. Get a FOID card. Have the background check if you're going to own a weapon. Okay. Right to bear arms. Right to own guns. Amendment. Oh, I'm sorry. Was everyone done with bear arms? Okay. Amendment 3 prohibits forced quartering of soldiers, meaning quartering is a fancy way of saying house. So prior to this, the government could be like, "Hey, Miss Staples, these 15 soldiers are going to come live with you, and you're going to do their laundry, provide them meals. You're going to drive them to work every day, and they're going to get to use your Wi-Fi.
I'm like, kid, my kid.
And
he's not coming on me.
You have to pay for all that."
He's not my kid.
Right? So the Third Amendment came in saying that they cannot force you to house American soldiers. Okay? They did used to do that, yeah. So, back in the American Revolution, people were like, no, not a good idea. So, you are not
if they said
forced.
No, so if they said no back then, they would what?
They just do it anyway.
I would never done it.
I know. I mean, a stranger staying in your home, like,
I'm like, he
no
my
thank
kid.
you. Right. So, but now it's illegal. Now they cannot force you to house a soldier in your home. Amendment 4 prohibits unreasonable search and seizure, requires a search warrant to search your home or your property. Now, this does not include probable cause. Okay, so let's say a police officer's walking past your home and they're hearing someone scream, "Help, help!" That's probable cause. They can go in your home without a search warrant. If they pull up to they pull over a vehicle and they walk up to the car and they smell something that is probably an illegal substance, or they smell alcohol or whatever, that's probable cause. They can search your vehicle. Okay? An officer has probable cause, they can search your property without the search warrant. But if there's nothing going on that they can hear, see, smell, whatever, then they cannot just walk up to your home and look through your stuff. If they do, that piece of evidence could be thrown out in the court. We good? Amendment 5 protects the right to due process and prohibits self-incrimination. So, do you ever hear somebody say, "I plead the fifth"? Okay, that's your right to stay silent. It will not incriminate yourself, and you don't have to testify against yourself. So, when you hear somebody read their Miranda rights, when they say you have the right to remain silent, you have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one will be provided for you. Okay, that's what they're referring to, the Fifth Amendment. The right to not testify against yourself.
It's kind of like when you like in court. This is basically like a checker or gambling game.
Mm-hmm.
You see, you can get out or get in.
You watch those cop shows and they.
But don't that cost about what, like an arm and a leg probably?
Lawyers are very expensive, yes. Yes. So, in court fees are expensive. I mean, you got to pay people to protect you or pay people to represent you. Are we good? Amendment 6, the right to be notified of accusations against you. And next to the side,
I like that picture.
you like my pictures? I enjoy memes, so you're going to see a bunch of nerdy memes on things. Okay, you also have a right to a fair and speedy trial. Meaning, if you're charged with something, they can't wait a year before they start your trial just because of a clerical error. Now, if there are other situations that delays your trial, then that's one thing. But you have the right to a fair and speedy trial.
Wait.
The fair and speedy trial does not have a line on there. I added it in later so you can write it to the side of your notes. Next to number 6, just write it in that blank area. You watching later, write it in this area right here.
What, number 6?
Yeah.
For what?
The right to a fair and speedy trial.
But don't like being a lawyer, don't you basically kind of gotta persuade the judge?
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's not
Yep, you gotta
lawyers.
convince them that your side is the right side.
But don't they be sometimes lying though?
Sometimes.
Yeah. But they be like,
You're not
I
supposed
swear,
to lie,
You
but-
can lie. You can't lie.
But you swear to tell the truth.
But
And you
you
can be
make
in
sure-
trouble if you're found lying
Yeah, but
on
you have
while
to-
you're sworn in.
But yeah, make sure the people who is in there, you gotta tell them not to tell the truth.
Yep.
Don't they got liar
There's a
lawyers?
lot.
Liars.
Lie
lawyers,
detectors. I mean,
Lie lawyers.
lie. I mean, like lawyers who don't tell the truth.
Yeah.
Probably.
Four of them.
Okay, we good? Amendment 7, right to trial by jury. So, when they say jury, they mean a group of your peers. Now, let's say you're accused of a crime and you're going to go before a trial by jury. Okay, there's a judge and then there are 12 people that is considered your jury. Now, those people are chosen by your driver's license registration. okay, and you have to be over a certain age. So you have to be over 18. So if you get selected for jury duty, you'll get a letter at home, and they'll say you have to report at such and such time at the courthouse. Now my husband's been on jury duty before, and so what they do is you show up to the courthouse.
You have to.
Mm-hmm. It's your right as a citizen.
That's slow.
No. So now listen.
But did he?
They will ask you all kinds of questions. Personal belief questions, where you're from, what you do, things like that. Now, as a teacher and a mom, if it, let's say, is a trial against a child, in my personal opinion, to the chair. You heard a little one? To the chair. No matter what they say, to the chair. Okay? They probably wouldn't select me because I'm not impartial. Okay? Now,
To what chair?
that's what they say when they, death penalty. They don't do that in the state of Illinois. I'm just trying to give you like an exaggeration.
Why they don't do it down here?
And it's considered not humane. So they do like life in prison instead.
Die anyway.
Right. So, jury, they will ask you different questions. So if it is, let's say you are a police officer, or your husband or wife is a police officer, and the trial is someone accusing a police officer of wrongdoing, are they going to have you on the jury?
No.
Probably not, because you've got too much emotional investment in the situation. Okay? So they'll ask lots of questions, and they'll select more than 12 people to come down. But then they'll narrow it down to the 12 people. Okay? And certain things get you dismissed. If you're 9 months pregnant, they're probably not going to make you sit on the jury. Okay? There's different things that can get you out of jury.
So people won't work on. I bet people won't get pregnant just to get out there.
Well, now, just because you get out of jury duty this one time, doesn't mean you can't be selected again for another round of jury duty. Like, I've never been on jury duty, but I would love to, just because I teach civics and U.S. history, and it would be fun.
Question.
Okay. Yes.
What's the whole point? Do you have to, like, did you get to volunteer to do it, or?
No, they'll select you. So they go based off of your driver's license, and then you get selected, and then you show up and whatever. Now, they only give you so many times that you can get out of it. Like, my mom got out of it 3 times. Once was for, my dad was going through surgery, and then my mom was recovering from surgery, and then something else happened at work, and she couldn't get off work. So she cannot get any more free passes. She has to do it the next time. So they only let you have so many.
Yeah.
I'll get you guys filled in on notes after lunch, okay? All right, Amendment 8. No cruel and unusual punishment. So let's say you steal a candy bar from Walmart, they can't give you the death penalty for that. That's an unusual punishment. They can't do a cruel punishment. Since you stole something, they're going to cut your fingers off. That's cruel punishment, okay? No cruel and unusual punishment. We good? Okay. Number 9, rights for the people that are not explicitly stated in the Constitution. So, if it does not directly state in the Constitution whatever law, if it's not specifically stated, like no texting and driving. There was no such thing as cell phones back when the Constitution was written. So, rights not stated are left to the state. Okay, so the state can decide if texting and driving is illegal. Okay? If they're not explicitly stated in the Constitution, those rights are to the people, meaning the state. We have one more amendment note that we're going to do. Not explicitly stated in the Constitution. Okay. Okay, and one more. Limits the powers of the federal government to those delegated by the Constitution. So the rights that the government has, like the right to coin money, that's specifically stated in the Constitution. So that's a right given to Congress, federally, not state, not county. Okay? All right, so that is your Bill of Rights. Notes. I wanted to go over a couple of things with you. My friends watching this later, now is when you're going to be doing the Bill of Rights coloring book. It has some facts. It looks like this. In the back of it, there are some questions that you need to answer about the Bill of Rights. Everything can be found answer-wise in the booklet. If you're really fancy and you like to color, you can always color, but you need to make sure you read the information at the bottom, okay? Also, tomorrow we're going to go through amendments 11 through 27. There will be an additional video about that coming tomorrow. Friday, we're going to do a quick quiz over all the amendments. It'll probably be a Kahoot quiz or a Word document quiz. If you're watching later, I'll send it to you later. Also, mark your calendars. Wednesday, October 4th is tentatively our Constitution test date. Okay, that'll be the federal Constitution. And then after that, we'll start studying the Illinois Constitution. That'll be much shorter. And then we'll talk about your rights as citizens. Maybe we'll have some guest speakers and things like that. Okay, Constitution test, Wednesday, October 4th. Get ready.